explaining to me how diets work as if I don't know.
Fat shaming is horrible, especially if you leave the doctor's office like that. I never had a fat shaming encounter with a doctor. However, that doesn't mean that I don't sympathize with what that woman went through and her emotions. She was in her truth. However, if she just knew these few little things, these few steps to take, she would have never ever have left a doctor in that state. First thing, before you go to any doctor, research them. If you have an insurance card from your job, or if you're a freelancer or a retiree, turn your insurance card around. Not only is there a phone number, there should be a website of your insurance. Go to that website. It will have a list of doctors, and those lists will say, do you want a male or female, what language, what kind of certification. Also, you can see what other patients have said about the doctor. You can research the doctor. Second thing, going to the doctor about a strange pain or a strange lump or a rash is scary in itself. But please don't forget that you are in charge. When you go to that doctor's office, that doctor doesn't know anything about you. You have to tell him what's going on. Remember, you're in a vulnerable state. And when you're in a vulnerable state and the doctor says something about your weight or in a very nasty way, you probably end up just like that lady in the film. But you have to remember that you are in charge. And if you feel somebody's disrespecting you, even if you're sitting in a doctor's office, you do know you can get up and walk out, right? Third thing, demand tests. Demand tests, demand tests. At least a blood work. Even if your doctor is an a-hole, you have to force them. If you choose to stay with that doctor to see beyond the weight and demand a blood test, tell them my insurance is going to pay for it. I want a blood test. They may mumble and grumble, but you're going to get that blood test. Let me tell you what happened to me just a little while ago. I live in New York City, so I take the subway, and there's an underground subway and there's an above ground subway, and my subway is above ground. So the steps that I've taken for decades. This particular time, even though I was wearing a mask, walking up the steps, no problem, but all of a sudden, halfway to the platform, I got a real tight sensation in my chest. Now, it wasn't a panic attack, because I had a panic attack before, so it wasn't that. But it's like something was crunching my chest and the air was blocked. And I took the mask off. It wasn't the mask. I sat down the train, and this lasted, it seemed forever. It was probably about just 15, 20 seconds. And then it happened again the next day. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm going to see a cardiologist. And that's what I did. I went to see a cardiologist, and I told him what's going on. And he said, okay, we're going to give you a series of tests. So they gave me all sorts of heart tests. They gave me this very expensive test to see what's inside the valves of my heart. And the reason I know it's expensive, because even though I do have good insurance, my co-payment was $150. So I know it was a good test. And they gave me a breath test, and that's something just pumping like that. But you have to go into this like box. I don't know if you guys remember the 1950s of quiz shows where you go into this box and you don't hear the announcer. That's what it was, like in a box. And I had to breathe in and breathe out. I was in for like half an hour. They wanted to test the strength of my lungs. After all that, I went to the doctor's office. He gave me a test. Now, there was a few things that were off, but that's like kind of normal for my age. Not 100, but it's kind of off. But they didn't find anything wrong. And then, and only then, did he bring up my weight. And he said what he believed it caused this unusual pain and shortness of breath was because of visceral fat. Now, I've heard of visceral fat before, but just in passing. But he said, if you look at the definition of visceral fat, which I'm showing you right now, it just squeezes your organs together. And sometimes gets short of breath. So we talked about me losing weight and all this stuff. Now, in that scenario, I think anybody who has a weight problem will understand and appreciate the doctor talking to them about the weight, because everything else, all other tests showed negative. Now we're going to go to the weight, because it's probably the weight. That's how the scenario is supposed to go. Remember, you are in charge of how people treat you. That includes your doctor. That scenario should have never happened to that lady. Do you know of anyone who's been fat shamed by their doctor? Have you been fat shamed by your doctor? And in each scenario, whether it was you or a friend, what happened? What did you do? Did you get rid of that doctor? Did you put up with that doctor? What happened? Did you even listen to that doctor? Because a lot of people who are obese, overweight, they're afraid to go to the doctor, or just fed up because they know that a lot of doctors are going to not see past the weight. So let me know in the comments. I hope you got something from this, because this is very important. You should not allow a doctor to fat shame you. You should not allow a doctor to talk to you in any disrespectful manner. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in a few days.